Namaste and welcome everyone. It is me, Nina, from Natural Living with Nina and Yoga Awakening Africa. And today I get to speak to the lovely Robyn from the Movement Sanctuary Pilates and Yoga. How are you, Robyn?
I'm very well, thank you, Nina. Thank you very much for seeing me today. I haven't been interviewed before, so this will be an interesting experience for myself. So thank you.
Awesome. I love it. So we're going to kind of like scrap the word interview and we're just having a chat and no one is listening and it's just the two of us and we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of giggles and we're going to see if our words come out or if they don't.
Yeah, hopefully they
do. We'll just let it be what it is.
Okay,
so
cool.
Robyn, just like tell me, like, what is your story? How did you get into doing what you're doing? What is your background? Who are you?
Well, it actually started many years ago when I started care work in the UK. And I worked with elderly ladies, and many of them did not have any family members or any people really within their lives, and they were quite isolated and not a lot of touch. That they didn't experience a lot of touch. So there was obviously no hugging and just general touch happening in their lives. And I'm not sure how I got into the idea of it, but then I decided to do massage therapy. I've always been interested in the slightly, alternative practices, I suppose. And I decided to do massage therapy and then work, take my massage with the care work and be able to offer a little bit more, within the role that I was in. And then that sort of was what I was doing for a while. And then I fell pregnant. And then when I fell pregnant, I discovered Pilates. And before that, I was never really a mover, except for walking and hiking. I was never really a mover. I've never been particularly strong or anything like that. But when I fell pregnant again, I wanted to do the experience as well as I could, because I knew that I would not be wanting to have another child. So yeah, amongst other things, I discovered the Pilates and started that, loved it, realized that your body is actually quite amazing. Never mind it can actually move and like do stuff. And then, it sort of just naturally evolved, having or not having to, but I wanted to spend time with my child and not be in a 9 to 5. So I sort of tried to turn my work into something that I could then be a mom at home as well. And then that's how the Pilates and the massage sort of started to work together. So I would do both. I would work at studios and massage at home as well. And then just through the years, it's been 15 years since all of that, actually probably a little longer. And here I am, with my own little home studio, little massage room in the back. And that's pretty much in a nutshell,
Awesome. I love it. I love how like you started off with regards to like at the beginning, when you were caring, is like, how a lot of those elderly were feeling so isolated and like that they just didn't have anyone in their life, and that touch is such a fundamental aspect and principle, and it just reminded me like just how important being with other people is for our mental and social health, and how important it is to touch and to feel and to experience even one's own body. And like you're saying, like with practices, like the Pilates and the yoga or whatever it is we're doing, we really do get into our bodies and we experience it on a different level that going for a walk or a hike or something like that, you just don't get the same.
No.
I know over the years you've experienced and you played with a lot of different things. And one of the things that I'm super curious about is finding out like, what is this movement is metaphor stuff? Because in a little chat we had, you mentioned it and I was like, this sounds amazing. Everyone should hear about this. So won't you just kind of like, for those like me who'd never heard of it before, won't you just give us like a quick rundown? It's like, what it is and how does one use it?
Okay, so I discovered a guy called Chandler Stevens, I think in COVID year. And I think, when everything was online, when we were shut down and everything was online and people were offering free everythings and just to try and keep everyone sane. And I discovered him on one of the, I actually can't even remember the name of it now, but it was one of the summits where, they had various different teachers from around the world and they would teach a session of something or other. Anyway, I discovered him. His stuff sounded interesting. And I think, if I remember correctly, I might have watched one of his videos, and the way that he spoke was like he was speaking my language. I was like, what? There's another person who can actually verbalize like what's in my brain, and I can understand what he's saying. So I followed him for a while. I did his free stuff. And then I decided to sign up for a year-long course with him for Movement as Metaphor, which really is a combination of movement together with a metaphor coaching practice, where you utilize using a metaphor to figure out how to begin to make changes in your world, in your daily life, whatever. Like generally we feel stuck with something. So I would then, or he would, whoever's doing the practice really, we would figure out what is your metaphor. And for an example, I'll give you an example of one that my sister gave me actually when I worked with her. And hers was that she felt like she was on this hamster wheel and she was just going around and around and around and she just couldn't get off and she was tired all the time. And, just life was very fulfilling because she was just on this little hamster wheel of work all the time. And so we begin to find the metaphor that works for the person that you're working with. And then we do a little bit of a like diagrammatic questionnaire. And we ask the person to move from side to side, backwards, forwards, and we begin to get a little bit more of an understanding as to the full situation. So, if for my sister example, if I say to her, okay, well, if you had to take a step forward off that hamster wheel, like, is it something that you feel like you are able to do, or are you stuck? Like, are your feet grounded into this little wheel? And then if you imagine taking a step behind the wheel, what's behind you? Like, is there something behind you? What's to the right of you? What's to the left of you? And you just begin to get a little bit of a bigger understanding as to what's happening within that feeling of whatever you're feeling. So obviously it's different for every person. Some people can feel like, they're stuck in the mud. But then how deep are they? Is it just their feet? What's to the front of them? Are they able to take a step while they're stuck? Do they feel like they're drowning? And it's just very interesting because the metaphors are quite eye-opening. They can give you a lot of information in one little sentence really. And then you would then work with that. So whatever information comes out from the metaphor, you would then begin to make or encourage, or I don't even know what the word is really, but encourage a change. So for example, with my sister, one of the changes that she was asked to utilize in her working situation was to take a tea break. So instead of just going to work and working flat out and then working overtime because she's trying to get all of the work done, it was to take a pause, to take a 10-minute tea break, to step outside, to drink her tea, notice whatever's going on around her, and then go back into the work situation. Whereas so that you then begin to utilize spaces in your day where you can pause, reset, and then continue, so that you're actually giving your brain a little bit of a break, your body a little bit of a break. For her, it worked. It just took her out of that sensation of just being in front of the screen and working an entire 9-10 hour day. Then it was a similar thing. Like when she gets home, what's the first thing that you do when you get home? How can we change that? Can we change a habit? And obviously, with habit changes, it takes a while, but it's just become aware of your patterns of what are you doing the same of every day. And that is contributing to that feeling of whatever you're doing.
Does that make sense? Yeah, that is, you've literally hit the nail on the head, because that is exactly what happens in life. Like if we have a poor habit in place, something that isn't healthy, and we're just doing that over and over again. Say it is, like coming home from work, throwing down like our handbag, grabbing a glass of wine and putting on the telly. Like that, if we do that every single day, we get into a specific poor routine that is maybe not going to be as healthy as, okay, what if I, put my handbag down, go change out of my clothes, or go have a glass of water, go change out of my clothes and go and sit outside on the veranda for 5 minutes and breathe.
Yes.
And so like you're saying, it's that little noticing what a poor habit is and putting something else in place that is better. And it's so easy to fall back into, I find, those old habits again, because they're so ingrained. And this is where I think like working with someone like you or a coach or whoever, it can be really helpful, because you then just keep the person, you give them like, with at least with the movement as metaphor idea, is like they get a real clear idea as to like, what the image is. And they can then have that plan going forward. Okay, like if I want to get off my little hamster wheel or just slow it down or whatever it is going to be, like my side step is this. And to just keep reminding yourself to then do that and put practices in place that make it easier. So like the bottle of wine is like not in the fridge, it's kind of like, in a cupboard far away, and like the glass is right there, the jug of water is maybe right there, so like it's an easy like transition or shift to do. And that is great. So do you have any, what else can you say about like movement as metaphor? How, I'm quite curious to find out like what it was for you that got you attracted to it at the beginning. Like what resonated with you? What metaphor did you have, if I may ask?
Do you know, I actually can't remember my metaphor at the time, but there's actually, like what I'm telling you today is really like just the tip of the iceberg with the whole thing. It was really a year-long course, utilizing the metaphor, utilizing movement, utilizing embodiment of your present space. And one of the things that he did with us, and this is the one that actually, blew my mind a little bit, and you might know it, but it's called Yak and Yum. So it's to try and explain it now. So you do a little diagram or two circles with the middles interlapsing. I can't remember what it is called, as something.
Yeah.
Yes, that. And then you'd have your yak, you have your yum. Now your yaks are, for me, a big yak is admin. I hate admin. It's in my yak side. Yum, I really do enjoy a good cup of coffee. I love a good walk. That's in my yum side. So you would then, do all of your yaks, your yums, and then, but some of your yaks and some of your yums are in the middle. So they have to be done, whether you like them or not. So my admin is a yak, but it's also a necessary. So it's in the middle circle. And he just sort of asked you to write down your yaks and your yums within the circles to check, like, for example, again, driving. I hate driving, I have to do it. It's in the middle of my circle. And he just asked us to notice, like, what of the the yaks do you not actually have to do? Like some of them you don't have to do. We just automatically do it for whatever reason. Our parents have told us we need to do it. Society's told us we need to do it. Whatever the case may be, it's in a portion where you don't actually have to do it, but you're choosing to do it because you've been told to do so. But then you've got the yaks where you have to do them. So we have to make peace with the fact that, okay, I hate admin, but how am I going to make it a yum so it's not as yucky as, I make it out to be? So it was like, suggestion was, well, why don't I go to a coffee shop and I do my admin in a coffee shop and I drink a cup of coffee while I'm doing it. I'm surrounded by people, it's a little less isolating, and I'm actually enjoying the fact that I'm out, and even though I have to do my admin. So that was the one of the big things. And then what he got us to do was to do a little mouth exercise, which again is really weird. And maybe I'll do it with you one day because it's really quite odd. But he got you to count your teeth in your mouth. He got you to count your teeth and then to do some like weird mouth movements and I can't remember exactly everything else, but it was pretty much that. And then he got you to count your teeth again. And pretty much everyone that was doing it had counted their teeth wrong. You just hadn't counted all of them. And then it was just, again, a matter of noticing, okay, well, here the first time round we counted, I mean, I don't even know how many teeth we actually have. But anyway, you know, counting your teeth the first time, it was less than what you actually have. And then he put it all together on this like chewing metaphor, like chewing on life. What's yuck? What's yum? Counting your teeth. So he really embodied like the entire thing. You know, it was like this metaphor of chewing on life. You know, what are you biting down on? You know, what are you gritting your teeth for? And then bringing it into your daily life of, okay, well, this is my yuck. Okay, I hate driving, or I hate admin, or I love my coffee, I love my walks. And just noticing, you know, how it is all connected. You know, one is not separate to the other. You're not a separate entity in anything that we do. And again, it comes down to the patterns or society or whatever we've been taught. Is it yours? Is it someone else's? And for me, that was the big thing, is just how he got everything. And that was in 1/2 an hour session. I mean, it was incredible. It blew my mind. And I'm sure I'm probably not explaining it as well as what he did. But that was for me the big thing. And then I was like, okay, I want to work more with you. So I worked, it was, I think, 2 or 3 times a week. We would meet. There were some other people connected online, if they were all over the world. And then we would practice, obviously, metaphors on each other. We would do movement practices. And again, it would be, you know, simple things, but then also big body movements. And again, bringing it into what you're feeling. Yeah, yum. Are we going into pain? Are we listening to where we need to be? Are we discerning between discomfort or fear? And just really finding yourself present in a moment. And one last thing, because I really am, I can talk actually all day about this. It's quite crazy.
Go ahead.
But one of the things, you know, is now I've actually lost my train of thought. Is he would say, how are you? And how do you know? How do you know how you are? I mean, yeah, I'm fine. Oh, I'm fantastic. Oh, I'm not feeling so lucky today. How do you know that? What is your body telling you? And then taking that onto the mat, into your practice. Are you pushing through things? Are you just going there because you've been taught, no pain, no gain, you've got to do it? Or are you actually embodying the body that you have in that moment that you're moving through it? And are you honoring wherever you are at that point in time? And discerning between pain, discomfort, fear, like what's holding you in that space. Yes.
Really interesting. There's so much that I'd love to unpack in there, if I remember. So the first thing was, I love this idea of, like, you know, the yuck and the yum, but actually grabbing a piece of paper, because I know, like, generally what I don't like and what I do like, but I think there's a big difference when you actually start putting pen to paper and writing it down and actually seeing it, and then putting them where they need to be. And then in a sense, it's like kind of like, sounds like you're matching your yums with your yuck. So like you're saying, you know, you can have your cup of coffee and do something that you don't enjoy to make it less stressful, because at the end of the day, everything is interconnected. And like with Ayurveda, that's one of the basic principles. It's like, we are all connected to each other, to nature. Like, nothing is separate. There is always interconnection everywhere. And it sounds like, when we have this kind of like black and white perspective on life, in a sense that we actually don't see the interconnection of things, and actually that kind of practice, I think, helps us do that. And I think it can be so beneficial, especially with like societal norms that we think we need to adhere to. You know, whatever the general thing is, like, you know, marriage, or, you know, doing things a certain way, or going to varsity or to college, or, you know, and actually, like, just because society dictates certain things, is it actually what is
necessary?
What I'm feeling? Is it what like, like it's yummy for me. Like maybe I want to
Yes.
just go travel for a year. Like maybe
Yeah.
that is kind of like what I'm really keen on. And
Yeah.
so I think it's really important to discern, okay, like again, the yucks like those that you have to do, and which are those that have just been put on you by
Mm.
society or from parents or from whatever the story is, but that actually don't resonate with you as a person.
Yeah.
And I'm such a big believer in writing things down. My dad has always said that to me. It's like, if you have a dream, write it down and
Yes.
put it in your drawer or something like that. Like since we were little, he'd say
Yes.
that, and your dream will, it'll become a reality. And so that is like the one aspect I wanted to just jot down or kind of like mention again for those who, especially who are going to be listening, is like, pause this recording, do the practice, grab your notepad and just do it for yourself and see where it is. And
Yeah.
it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be a long practice. You don't have to go like into
Mhm.
super meditation and find
No.
stillness for like half a day and like go on retreat. Like just for 15 minutes, grab pen and paper, write it
Yeah.
down, and just see what comes up and just notice. So
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, also there really is so much to talk about. But within the yuck and the yum, when you're writing your yucks down or your yums down, is to notice what happens in your body as well. So, when you think of your admin, I mean, what actually happens in your body when you think of your admin, or something that really is a yuck for you, or something that isn't your yuck, but it's in your yuck pile. How does it make your body feel? Do you feel yourself automatically tense? Do you start getting heart palpitations? What is actually happening in the body? And then with your yum, the same thing. Like, do you feel a release of the tension when you think about, oh yeah, that's really nice? Or, and to notice the sensations that's happening in your body, because then again, in your daily life, you can begin to discern again, okay, well, I'm starting to feel a little bit like, okay, starting of anxiety, or, something's bubbling up. And how can we then manage that by, okay, well, do I need to be in the situation right now? Can I pause? Can I take a break? Or is it something that I need to be doing, or can I put it aside? And that, I think, also then begins to translate into managing yourself, especially if you do struggle with anxiety and such things, is to begin to notice your patterns of like, well, when are they showing up? What's happening? How can you then, move away from it or manage the anxiety? How, can you breathe through it? Can you transition through whatever's going on physically within the body? And it really just is, it's just such a very powerful practice, to begin to work on yourself in that way, where then you're able to manage through, life's lifiness, because it really can be a little intense sometimes, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. But I think if we're able to, like we were saying earlier, is to process the stuff that you're moving through and to let it go so it doesn't live within the body. And then that, I think, can be very powerful, transformation for yourself.
Yeah.
So it has so many different aspects to it. It's very powerful. It's very
Yeah.
powerful. So in the studio, I would use it like in a group class. We would do like a practice.
I was going to ask that next. Like, how would you utilize it? Like, can one utilize it? Obviously, you've just said you do use it, so it would
Yeah.
be nice. But like, how would you utilize something like that in like a class setting that you have?
So I usually, because it's normally like a slowish thing, what I have been doing is in my yin yoga. It's not really yin yoga only. I call it that so that people have a reference, but I would then bring it into that space and time. So we would then maybe start the practice with your yak and yams, begin to feel like, okay, what's happening in the body, and then take that into the movement practice, whichever shapes that you're going into. Like, what does this feel like? Is this somewhere where you should be going today? Is it causing anxiety because there's pain? Can we back away, to utilize it that way? What I have also done is I've actually just created, like a 6-week movement program where I then give you all of the stuff to do. Often in my Pilates classes, I would do like a meditation at the beginning, where another one is we would imagine drawing your skeleton and your arms. And this one's actually it's very interesting and powerful, actually, because at the beginning of a class, a person can feel quite disconnected to themselves, and arms can feel like different lengths and legs can feel not attached to the pelvis. And then at the end of the class, after having moved through and been aware of knees and feet and elbows and fingers and so on, and how everything is connected, and then at the end of the class we go back into that same meditation and go, okay, well, where are we now? How is the body settling now? Do we feel like we're a little bit more connected? Can we feel and imagine that our skeleton is attached to the arms and the legs and everything's a little bit more balanced? So I do throw it into my classes. Not all the time. I do think sometimes it's quite intense. And sometimes people are just not in the right space to experience it positively. And it can actually, I had one lady who I did this skeleton exercise with her, and she felt so uncomfortable and disconnected with the whole thing that she actually didn't want to come again to the next session. It was a 6-week program. And I said to her, it's completely understandable. It's very normal to feel that way, because we're asking you to be very present within yourself and notice what's happening both internally and externally. Thankfully, she did come again, and she started to get a little bit more comfortable with. And what I found the most interesting is that she was a body practitioner as well. So she would do classes like the yin and get people involved and feeling present. But when she was then given the opportunity to do it, it was difficult for her to accept. It's sort of like the giving and receiving. It's easy to give all your stuff, but to accept the receiving is very challenging, I think, for some people, definitely me. But it was interesting. So then by the end of the 6 weeks, you could actually, she was like, wow, that was quite incredible. At the beginning, I was very uncomfortable, managed to make peace with the fact that, I don't normally give this to myself. So here I am. So yeah.
What an amazing story. What an amazing story. And it also speaks volumes to you, instead of just being like, okay, cool, well, for some, it might not be for some people, and cheers, but actually just being like very, very understanding and like, accepting of her, and like, that's cool, that's okay, that's that's totally understandable. And that she was then willing to try and come again and keep going. And I think that is the important thing with like personal growth and transformation. It's going to, if you're going to transform, it's going to push us to our boundaries, to our edges. And if we've got someone who can be there to hold our hand, to support us a little, to take that next step, then it's so much easier than having to do it by ourselves. If we have to do it by ourselves, it takes so much time. And I think that's why people love going to yoga classes or Pilates classes or things like that, because there is that teacher, that support, that can see, you can maybe invite your body to go a little bit further today because you look like you're breathing comfortably, and or maybe like, you know what, I think today you need to give yourself a chance to rest in child's pose. I think you should just be there for that. And when you've got a teacher, coach, support who can guide you, because they can see a little bit more from an elevated bird's eye perspective, it just allows you that breathing room and that growth to happen so organically and so easily. And I think and I think when we have stories like that, it just reminds us, because I think on a day-to-day kind of like yoga class, Pilates class, when maybe doesn't have such a big opportunity for transformation, not that it can't happen, I don't want to say that, but like you're saying, if you have a contained 6-week course or whatever it may be, that you often can, like, resistance is going to arise because it's in a certain amount of time. If it's 6 weeks or 6 months or a year-long course, whatever it may be, like, they're parameters, and it's trying to get you from a point A to a point B, and that journey to do, for that to happen, there has to be that transformation of something has to be let go, something has to be kind of like released.
Definitely. As much as we like to cling sometimes.
Oh, don't we just?
Levels. No, don't make me do it. But then at the end of it, it's like, oh, okay, that actually wasn't so bad. I don't know why I was shouting quite so loudly.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can resonate with that. That is like me down to a T. Craig will be like, you know, Nina, just no. They'll be like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Yeah.
I think most of us are that way inclined, actually.
Yeah. Maybe it's also
Uh,
something we just need to have like that chance to complain and scream and moan and
yes,
you know,
yes.
have that little other person like push us a little and then be like, okay, this feels so much better. Thank you.
Absolutely. I do it every week actually with my online training coach. I do kettlebell training
Uh-huh.
and I complain through all my sessions. But at the end of it, I'm like, okay, that was actually pretty cool. Thank you.
And the person's going like, oh my word.
Yeah, exactly. She actually calls me a princess. It's very funny. I'm like, yeah, I am a princess, okay? But I'm a princess who lifts 20-kilogram kettlebells. So I'm
There we
okay
go.
with
I take my hat off to you. I am not there yet, but it was funny. We were at the shops last week with Craig and we saw kettlebells and I was like, check those kettlebells. I think we should get some. And he's like,
cool.
yeah, anyway, so we didn't get them yet, but we probably will. Maybe when his boys come out to visit and they also want to do a bit of exercise
Yes.
then. So yeah.
Fabulous idea. Fabulous idea.
I love it. From movement as metaphor to kettlebells to a whole load of other things that we have covered in our chat today. Robyn, thank you so much for being here and for connecting with me. So which is the easiest way for people to get hold of you and find you, and what is happening next in your life?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm probably the most active there. But obviously
When you do the most
email.
beautiful images and photos on Instagram, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Though the last like batch of them were not me, just because we had a photo shoot a little while ago and we had a lady come in and do like a fitness boudoir shoot, which was actually a very powerful experience as well. I highly recommend it. Yeah, especially if you struggle a little with your own recognizing your own beauty. But yeah, but thank you. I will say thank you. Just the last batch hasn't been me, so I don't want to take credit for photos that I haven't taken. But yeah, email, WhatsApp is also fine. Preferably a voice note or a message. I don't really like phone calls. Is that terrible to admit?
No,
But I will
I
phone
am
you if
just like you.
necessary.
You can leave me a voice note, you can leave me a message, just don't phone me.
Yeah, but I will do phone calls. Again, it's on my yuck side. I will do them if I have to, if they're necessary.
While I'm having a
And then,
walk,
yeah,
that's usually when I do mine.
yeah, fair enough. I think I might have to steal that idea. And then yeah, just I'm on Facebook as well. I think yeah, those are the usual ways to contact me. Yeah, all of them are fine. All of them are good.
Fantastic. All right.
Probably less Facebook than anything else though, because I'm
Interesting.
not there very regularly. Yeah.
Instagram it is.
But thank you very much for having me. It was actually really nice to chat about that. I haven't chatted about it for a while, so it was good. It
Love
was
it.
good to do it again. Thank you.
You're welcome.